Hello, welcome to my Intermediate Financial Accounting 2 pre-class series of videos. My name is Steve Janz, and I look forward to sharing with you a lot of knowledge and a lot of information that will hopefully help you when you come to class and you learn about the topic for the first time. What I've experienced over the years is that there are a few topics in every module, every chapter, that are challenging, and you're challenging when you're exposed to it for the first time. If you work through these videos and you take about 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes only 15 minutes, and you understand these few topics, these few areas that are maybe a little tricky, and you work on these before you come to class, it will hopefully make your classroom experience really rewarding instead of challenging. So let's get started. Our first module, Chapter 13 of the KESO textbook, is all about current liabilities. In this module, in this chapter, there's a very important topic that I want to make sure you truly understand and are really good at, and that is the effective interest schedule. You'll see it with asset retirement obligations. You'll see it talking about a little bit about notes and maybe a little bit about bonds. This is the big takeaway that I need you to have when you finish this chapter so that you can use this technique through many chapters in this course and many modules. So let's get started. Now, one thing I want to make sure you're well aware of is please bring your laptop. I'm going to allow you to solve these effective interest schedules in Excel. And it saves a tremendous amount of time. It reduces errors. Instead of taking 15 minutes to do it by hand, you'll take maybe 4 or 5 minutes. That is a huge savings. In your notes package, I have given you a really detailed description on how to do this in Excel. So if your Excel skills are poor, you're struggling with it, or you just can't remember some of the techniques, it's there for you, and I'll highlight it for you in class. I've also sent you this effective interest schedule done in Excel so that you can take a look at how I solved this effective interest schedule that we're going to work on, and you can look at each cell to see how I created it so that you can have your skills really good when you finish this course. And again, most importantly in your case, when you're doing and completing the tests, you will save 20-30 minutes throughout the midterms and finals and quizzes, and you'll really appreciate that. A little bit of a learning, but we'll really appreciate it. Let's get started. Let's take a look at a basic effective interest schedule. I'll go through the terms, go through my abbreviations, and help you understand how to set this effective interest schedule up. You will also notice that at times, my effective interest schedule is different than the textbook. I prefer my schedule, but again, this will be entirely up to you which schedule you select. Are you ready? Let's get started. Here's our basic terms. Our N is 5 years. The payment, which is going to occur at the end of the year, is $24,390. Our BOP, beginning of period balance, is $100,000, and our interest rate is 7%. So we need to create this very basic effective interest schedule. So let's set up our schedule, our headings, and understand how we create this. So year one, great starting point, beginning of period balance is $100,000. We're going to have a full year go by before we make any payments. So we're going to have a full year's of interest. So a full year of interest will be $7,000. Simply $100,000 times our interest rate of 7%, that is going to be $7,000. At the end of the year, we're going to make a payment of $24,390. So what we're going to have is we're going to have, at the beginning of year, a $100,000 liability. We're going to have a $7,000 interest liability that accumulates. So now we owe $107,000. We're going to make a payment of $24,390. So therefore, our end of period balance is $82,610. That's what we owe at the end of the year. It's no different if you had a car payment or you had a condo or a house mortgage. It's very similar logic. Now we need to create the schedule for all 5 years. So year 2, how do we do that? Well, year 2, our starting amount, our beginning of period amount, will be the end of period amount from year 1. It just basically carries over. Think of it December 31st, now it's January 1st. No real time has gone by except for 1 day. So our starting amount will be $82,610. And then we carry on with a similar set of calculations. $82,610 times our interest rate of 7% will have $5,783 of interest. Our payment will be the same amount. We'll then add these two numbers together, our beginning of period interest minus our payment. We will have $64,003 as our end of period amount. Now, a couple things I want to highlight at this point. Our payments are always going to be the same. So one of the things you should start seeing now is that the payment will equal $24,390 for all 5 years. Now again, what is the objective of this? We have to make sure we think about what our effective interest schedule should look like. We have this debt. We have interest accumulating on it. And then we have the payments reducing it. One thing that we have to make sure we see is that at the end of 5 years, we're down to 0. It's no different than paying off your car, paying off your mortgage. So we carry on with our calculations. Again, where did this number come from? The end of period number from year 2. We'll have our interest for the year. And again, notice that the interest is going lower and lower every year because our balance is going lower and lower every year. We have less and less debt. That's why it's really nice to pay off your debt earlier, because it's the higher balance, the higher interest charges. Now we're on the last year. And one of the things I want to focus on the last year is that when you enter this into Excel, you may or may not enter in the pennies. I'm not showing pennies here because, generally speaking, that's too small of an amount. But what happens very often is that this doesn't go down to 0. If you actually enter the numbers just as I told you, you'll end up with a -5. Well, that's $5. That's nothing. You'll hear me refer to this in class as the cappuccino effect. If you are off by the price of a cappuccino, $5, $7, $3, you're actually right. It's just simply because we haven't entered in the pennies. There's some rounding issues. So what you do is you just make a small little adjustment, possibly here. You override the cell a little bit. You might put in +5, and you just have it come down to 0 at the end. Or you can maybe make an adjustment somewhere in here for the $5. If your number's off by $1 versus the Excel or versus mine because of pennies, it's still close enough. It's very immaterial. It will still be right. So what I would encourage you is that before you come to class for the first time, take your time, do a few things. Redo this schedule. You have the answers. Make sure you understand how the calculations are done. Do this on paper so that you really thoroughly understand where the numbers are being generated from. Then, this is very important. We're going to spend some time in class with this. Practice in Excel. The first time you do it, it might take you 12, 15 minutes to complete this schedule. I can promise you, by the end of our 15 weeks together, you'll be able to complete this schedule in 5 minutes in Excel. you'll be able to reduce your time substantially. So practice completing this in Excel. You have my Excel file with this exact schedule. You have my worksheet that details how and why I use certain formulas and how I create my Excel effective interest schedules. So go ahead and practice this. The last thing I want you to do is, if you can, and you'll hear me do this many times in class, create your own. Try and create your own now. See if you can figure out how to calculate the payments using your calculator. See if you can create your own schedule and practice creating your own question. I hope this helps. I look forward to seeing you, and have a great term. Thank you.